I don't want to talk about this show. There are some shows you just don't think you have to talk about, and then somebody comes along and raises your memory of a certain show. I am, of course, referring to Australian Sell of the Century. In case you've been living under a rock in the 90s or the 80s, and you don't know what Sell of the Century is, it's a game show where people can win cash and prizes, and they have to answer a whole bunch of questions, and they have a section of it called Fast Money. But the thing that bugs me about the Sell of the Century is, why? Why does it need to exist? Like, seriously, why is this a thing? I say that because it just seems so pointless to get on TV and win cash and prizes, and I realize that's what half the game shows are about. But I don't know, something about Sale of the Century just doesn't agree with me. It might have something to do with the fact that the host seems a bit pompous. Seriously, I'm not joking. I watched an episode of Sale of the Century on YouTube just before I made this video, and my god, the host just got so badly on my nerves. I was literally about to punch the screen of my iMac. He was just so up himself, like... Okay. No, that's enough ranting about the host. So, the gist of this particular episode that I saw, this guy by the name of Trent Cox had been playing with Sale of the Century for the last week. This is in September of 97. He'd been playing for Sale of the Century for a week, and he got something like $80,000 in prizes. And at the end of the show, they offered him to come back, and this guy was smart. He actually refused because he realized how much he'd be putting on the line if he came back and say he lost. But, yeah, Sale of the Century is divided into, I think it's 3 rounds, and they've got little segments like Famous Faces, Fast Money. They've got where you buy in the shop. I don't know if that has a name. I think I'll just call it shopping. Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. There are fans of Sale of the Century, and my girlfriend was a fan of Sale of the Century back in the day, and that's cool. I'm not ragging on Sale of the Century. I'm not saying you should agree with me and not like it. That's not what I'm about. I'm just putting forward my take on the show. I grew up in a Wheel of Fortune house, as I mentioned in the last video, so my allegiance lies with Wheel of Fortune. But don't get me wrong, Sale of the Century, this episode did have some pretty intense moments. Like, Trent started going backwards and getting a few questions wrong, and it looked for a minute like he was going to lose all the cash and prizes that he'd gotten over that past week. And that was pretty intense. Like, that was pretty scary to sit through and watch. You probably think I'm crazy being scared of something like this on a TV show, but seriously, when you watch TV, if you're like me, when you watch TV, you get so into the show that you're watching, you actually feel like you're there. But, I do believe Sale of the Century was hosted by, what's his name? Glenn Ridge? And Nicky Stone, I don't know. Like I said, Sale of the Century wasn't really my thing growing up. Yeah, but I had seen a couple of episodes of it as a kid, but my memory of it wasn't really so great. Because, yeah, like I said, we were a Wheel of Fortune house because Sale of the Century was on at the same time as Home and Away, and my sister was really into Home and Away. So, yeah. But it looks like my sister did me a favour, because if I hadn't watched Wheel of Fortune, I wouldn't have got to see Adriana Xenidis. So, thank you. But, yeah. To tell you the truth, I struggled to follow Sale of the Century because one minute they were asking all these questions, and the next minute they're doing Fast Money, and the next minute they're doing Famous Faces, and the next minute they're doing the shopping. It's like, seriously, stick to one thing. At least with Wheel of Fortune, they stuck to one thing, and you could actually follow it. Okay, but like I said, I'm not here to sort of rag on Sale of the Century and tell you that you shouldn't like it. That's not what this web series is about. It's just about reviewing some stuff that I may have missed growing up, reviewing old technology, and reviewing stuff that I saw or listened to or had when I was a kid. So I'm not telling you that you have to agree with me. In fact, I would be very, very, very surprised if anyone did agree with me on this, because Sale of the Century was probably even more popular than Wheel of Fortune. I'm not joking. I know people say that Wheel of Fortune was Australia's favourite game, but I swear, Sale of the Century was number one at one point, and that's why it outlasted Wheel of Fortune and became Temptation. I think Temptation lasted longer than Wheel. I have to look that up, but I think it did, yeah. So, I probably will go back and watch some more Sale of the Century, but seriously, it's just not my cup of tea. So I also think I might leave it. I haven't decided yet, but of course, there was an episode of Sale, I think it was. Yeah, it was Sale, where they had Val Lehman, Fiona Spence, and Maggie Kirkpatrick from Prisoner as contestants. So, and they were playing. It was sort of like this weird thing where they had cast members from two TV shows duke it out against each other for all the cash and prizes. I think one episode was Prisoner and the Young Doctors. One episode was the Sullivans and the Young Doctors, and so on. But yeah, I will go back and give those a watch, but I just wanted to sort of get Sale of the Century out of the way because, as I've already mentioned, it's not really my thing. And yeah, but my girlfriend requested I do this video, so who am I to say no? As long as she doesn't mind the fact that I didn't necessarily like it. Well, I'm the Nostalgia Nerd, and sorry for the shortness of this video, but there really isn't much I can say about Sale because, seriously, what the hell? Why is it a thing?